How is it going, flockers? Welcome back to another episode of Between Two Cars. We are in the new spot for now. This is my temporary spot. I already explained to you guys the whole situation. So we're going to be here for a few months, and then we'll go to, hopefully, my forever home. We'll have to figure that out and see what that's all about. I am contemplating moving out of state. California isn't the best place for car enthusiasts, so we'll have to see as time goes on. Anyways, today, first time back, first day back between two cars. I do plan, now that everything is somewhat settled in, on filming this series a little bit more. I don't think this is going to be the permanent camera angle. I just have my wheels that are mounting on the Corvette today or tomorrow right here, and so I can't film the other way. I do think you guys will be over there typically, but for once you guys can look, I guess, this way. Anyways, what are we talking about today? Well, today we're going to be talking about what you guys think and what I think are some of the most underrated cars for car enthusiasts. Underrated means these are often overlooked. These are cars that you don't necessarily think of. Like I think of a G8 as being pretty underrated when it comes to like a sports car or sports sedan. A GTO even might not be the most aggressive looking car, but it's got an LS underneath the hood, and it's a good old NA monster. It's a little baby Camaro. Anyways, those are a couple good examples. I'm sure you guys have some good examples. So I asked you guys on Instagram. Let's go ahead and see if I agree or disagree with some of these cars. So help me God, if somebody says a Mustang, I'm just going to backhand somebody because that is this is one of the most popular cars on the market. You can't say a Mustang. Anyways, first one, Catfish Camaros. Endless ways to mod, can basically do anything. Yes and no. I do agree the Catfish Camaro, which is the 4th gen Camaro for most of you kids that don't understand. They call it the Catfish because it looks like one. The Catfish Camaro is definitely underrated in the modern day car scene, but when that bitch came out, you guys have to understand that thing was holding it down on the streets. And even for a while, that car was just like one of the most heavily modified drag cars out there. Like when you would watch drag racing shootouts or Pink's Racing or any of these other TV shows where they would have just drag racers, the Catfish Camaro was one of the more popular Camaros. And it was new at the time too, which was crazy. You just think about people going up and putting their cars on the line for these TV shows and stuff, and it's like them doing it with a brand new Camaro today and stuff like that, which doesn't exist. But you get what I'm saying. The Catfish Camaro, I do think has some flaws. My boy Kale has had a handful, and although I do love how they look, later years that is, the rear ends are notoriously weak. I hear the transmissions also aren't the strongest. It's not like a Corvette or a Mustang where before the MT82 they could handle the power of the car and then some. I feel like the LS just makes too much torque for the rest of the car. It's a great motor, but everything else paired with it is underwhelming. But yeah, the Camaro, Catfish Camaro, somewhat underrated. I wish there were more people modifying them. Those in the Trans Am WS6, those cars, very cool. Somebody said a 350Z. I'm going to backhand you. The 350Z is one of the most popular import cars of like the last 10 years. Like that is one of the most popular cars ever. It's still a go-to starter car. It is one of the go-to drift cars. Definitely not underrated. I think that one is very, very fairly rated. Someone said 09 328i. N52 compatible with N54 parts. It's cheap, reliable. My car hit 150K, no lie. I'm guessing he means 150,000 miles. That's great for BMWs. For most other cars, that's a walk in the park. I'm not a huge fan of any of those 328i's. My boy Daniel, I think he used to have an 08 328i, so it was probably an N52 if it's still the same motor. And dude, you get the sticky interior. The interior is kind of just like, it's definitely dated. It's definitely a BMW interior. It did ride really smooth, though, I will say. Like, it is a good cruiser, but by no means would I say that that's a car that if I was a car enthusiast, I would want to go buy. It might not be a bad car for, like, a daily driver, but, flexing 150,000 miles isn't really that impressive. I mean, there was a Coyote posted up for sale on Facebook, and it went viral. It had 400,000 miles on it. Original car, original motor, 400,000 miles, Gen 1 Coyote. That just goes to show that, 150,000 ain't shit. Lotus Elise weighs less than 2,000 pounds, less weight and more power. People won't listen to it. I agree the Lotus Elise is a pretty slept-on car. One of the first track events I went to, I think the first one I went to with the McLaren, there was a guy and his wife ripping their Lotus Elise around the track. And it looks like a really fun car. I believe the power plant is like a Camry too, or a Corolla motor. I think it's a Toyota motor. So although you have a British car, and it's a very exotic looking car too. Like you can get a Lotus Elise for fairly cheap. I bet you can find the first gen ones for, you know, what, 30 or less probably easily. All day I haven't checked prices in a while, but I know that they're pretty cheap. And I think that for the most part they're pretty reliable because, like I said, they're Toyotas essentially. So I would say that's a pretty underrated car. I would say that's a pretty fair underrated car. You don't see too many of them. People are kind of scared of them. People were scared of the McLaren, or at least like people were scared for me when I got the McLaren because they thought it was gonna just shit the bed. But no, yeah, I mean, if you just take care of your car, it's really not all that bad. Sorry, I was like looking at my camera to make sure that my audio was working. I was like, did I not turn on my mic? But anyways, Jag F-Type SVR, 575 wheel horsepower, all-wheel drive, and track capable like a MF. I think I was talking with my boy Only Rears, and if I remember correctly, he mentioned this car too. And yes, this is a pretty slept-on car. I don't even know if we get it here in the States. I don't even know because I have never seen one. And just the brief knowledge I have on it, it is a fucking monster. It literally sounds like BMW specs, but in a Jaguar, which is like impressive. I've never really been a huge Jaguar fan. I know a lot of people like the older stuff. No one likes the newer stuff that's supposedly eventually coming out. But this car, if you just look at the specs of this car, 575 horsepower, all-wheel drive, and track capable, I think that is a very, very underrated car. And I think more people definitely should be at least aware of it. And if this is something that's selling in the States, I wonder for how much or how accessible. F30 328i. Can we stop talking about 328i's, please? I would not consider any 328i underrated. Maybe I'm just ignorant to the subject, but I have never once seen a 328i do anything cool. The cars we're talking about here do cool things and are moddable. I don't know if 328i's are really moddable, but there's a few people. Okay, this guy, he gives an explanation for it. 328i, F30, 50-50 weight distribution, that's pretty good. Perfect cheap track car, FCP Euro did one. Okay. That doesn't sound half bad. That is, I mean, 50-50 weight distribution is pretty good. I mean, that's perfect, honestly. I don't know jack shit about the car. I don't know the power. So I don't know if it's a 230 horsepower car. It doesn't sound like the worst thing ever. It might be a little underrated, but I do think that there might be better options. So we'll just keep on moving. Aston Martin DB models. I don't see anyone talk about it. Honestly, the DB11 is my favorite. A couple of my buddies recently, ironically, you mentioned this, two of my friends have Aston Martins. I don't know the exact model. One of them I think is the V8, like the V8 Vantage, I think, or maybe it's a DB11. I don't know. But both of them have Astons. One of them is a Corvette guy. He owns a Corvette shop, and he went out and bought an Aston. And then my other buddy owns Voodoo, which he has an R8, he has the 570, he has a bunch of cool shit, and he has an Aston as well. So I do think prices on Astons are becoming more and more obtainable. I'm not saying these guys are broke or anything like that. They obviously have way more money than me. But I mean, like, I think the crazy markup of Astons isn't really there anymore, to where you can go out and buy one and it's relatively the same price as like a C7 Z06 or a C6 ZR1. You know, you're up in that 70 to 80 to 90. You know, I don't know what they go to. I'm sure they go up higher than that, but depending on the year, you can probably find a pretty good one. And I've driven my boy Eric, his Voodoo, whatever, Aston Martin. Again, I don't know the models of them. But I drove his, and it's a really fun car. It is a really, really fun, peppy car, and it's super luxurious. That, I would say, is pretty fair. You don't see them. Everybody, when they start getting into that, like, exotic car market, they kind of skip over that, like, luxury performance car area, and they just go straight to, like, the base model Gallardo. I would prefer probably one of those Astons over like a base model Gallardo. Even though it's a Lamborghini, I think that those cars are way more fun, and it's a way more modern car. You can probably get in it and just drive and have a good time. So, New Edge Mustang, cheap, fun, reliable first car. I know I said I was going to get triggered if someone said Mustangs. New Edge Mustang I do think is fair because this one is kind of like the ugly duckling of Mustangs. I think the SN95 is more hated, but I don't know if it's because I'm becoming like a boomer or something. I'm starting to like how the SN95 looks. I'm starting to like the body style of that SN95. It's got some cool 90s curves to it that you just don't see anymore. Everything nowadays is super sharp and super crazy, and I do like how the SN95 looks with the curves and stuff like that. So the New Edge, which was my first car, I had a New Edge V6. I genuinely think to this day is still a good looking car. Like, I genuinely like the body lines of it. And I remember looking at it like after I would wash the car or whatever, and I'd go pick up my ex-girlfriend at the time. I'd be sitting there like, damn, dude, I got a nice looking car. And like, non-sarcastically, I still do think the New Edge Mustangs look great. I do plan on building a drift car somewhat in the future once I'm moved out of this temporary spot. And when I do, I'm looking at low-key a New Edge Mustang or a 3-valve. I'm debating on doing one of either. So we'll have to see. But that being said, I do think the New Edge Mustang is a little underrated. I mean, it's a 2-valve. You can make 450 horsepower reliably on them. That's pretty fun. That's pretty fast. It's plenty fast. TTRS, I don't think those are underrated. I think a lot of people know about those. Mark III Supra. It looks better. I don't know what you mean it looks better than, because it does not look better than a Mark IV. You could maybe make the argument it looks better than a Mark V. That's just bias at that point, but I get it. It's lighter. It was about just as good as the Mark IV, not to diss the Mark IV. Well, you were right on a couple of those things. I don't know if it's lighter. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. The Mark IV is surprisingly heavy, at least the US models. Japanese models are a little lighter. Like, mine is a little lighter because mine doesn't come with any of like the airbag safety features and stuff. So mine is definitely lighter than a Mark III, I would say. But saying that it's just as good, I don't think so. The 7M, no bueno. No bueno motor. I mean, it's you can make power out of them, but it's not no 2JZ, you know. So I get what you're saying, but I also don't get what you're saying at the same time. So yeah, I do think the car is underrated, but saying it's just as good as a Mark IV, the reason why I could tell you that's not the case is because you could look at Mark IV prices and Mark III prices, vastly different. I do think Mark IIIs are a great option. I do wish more people drove Mark IIIs because they are cool cars, but it's definitely not better than a Mark IV or just as good. It's like Mark IV, Mark V, and then Mark III is above or below depending on what you look for in a JDM car. If you look for comfort and reliability, well, I don't know if the Mark V is that reliable. It is a BMW after all. 1997 Pontiac Grand Prix GTP. In quotations, in parentheses, I own one and want to be cool. The Grand Prix is not cool, I'm sorry. It's a cool name. You would think something named the Grand Prix would be pretty sick. Sadly, it is not. Honda Prelude, 5th gen. Performance, Acura NSX, 2nd gen by far. Oh, he's saying for looks, something that's underrated. A 5th gen Honda Prelude. What is that? Off the top of my head, which one is that? Gen Honda Prelude. Okay, I agree. I do think that these are pretty good looking cars. I would agree. I'll show you guys really quick. I would say this is my favorite looking Prelude. I don't know if you guys can see that with the sun out and the glare and stuff, but that's a pretty good looking car. I like the headlights. I like how like big and squarish they are. I do think that. Fair, valid. I would say that's a valid one for looks. For performance, Acura NSX 2nd gen by far. I don't know if I could call the NSX underrated. Maybe in the performance category, maybe it is more capable than I'm thinking. But, I mean, it's an Acura NSX. I think most people have pretty valid opinions on it already. So, I don't know if I can call that underrated. Mazda Speed 6. I don't know. You know, that one might be a good one. Because I don't know anyone, and I don't even think I've ever been submitted a Mazda Speed 6. Mazda Speed 3s all day. Mazda Speed 6. Let's read the specs really quick. They can make 227 horsepower, 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, 6-speed automatic. That's not bad. I mean, I don't know if, like, you have to put that into the category with, like, Honda Civic Si, what other little sports sedans? Acura, Integra. You have to put it into, like, other little sport car categories, sports sedans. And I don't know if a Mazda with 227 horsepower is really all that fun, but it's probably not that bad, all things considered. I don't know if I would say it's underrated. I think it's pretty bland looking, and I think the performance is probably pretty bland as well overall. Some years of the Focus RS, not even a huge Ford guy, but I met a dude at uni with one, and there you are, I don't know what he's saying. Ford Focus RS, those prices are getting low too, surprisingly. Those are getting pretty damn cheap, which is pretty impressive. I've always wanted one, and I think if I were to ever buy a hot hatch, maybe I would buy one, because I've loved how they look. I love the interiors. I don't think they sound all too bad. I think it's a pretty good car. And I don't know if I would consider it underrated because, once again, it's a popular model. At least in SoCal, you do see Ford Focus RS as a good handful. But if you were to argue the old Ford SVT Focus, the older one, then I would say, okay, now we're talking about something a little underrated. That is something that people definitely sleep on, and I think more people should know about. That was a car that I didn't know existed until I saw one. I thought some dude threw some SVT badges on his Focus RS or Focus Egg from, '02, and no, they make them. So that, I would argue, is a little bit more of an underrated car. Let's see. Mark IV GTI, not fast, but a fun 1.8 turbo or VR6. We ain't talking about eggs as underrated. I hate them, so take your egg and shove it up your ass. Subaru. I don't think Subarus are underrated. I think Subarus are overrated. I'm really interested to see what the new Subaru platform can do. But, dude, it's hard to sit there and tell people to mod a Subaru when all of the Subaru memes exist and they're like true. Like, from a Subaru owner, they're fucking true. The car's unreliable for the most part. I didn't even mod mine, caught fire. They don't make power for shit. You could throw 10 grand at the car and make 50 horsepower. Like, it is a car that is very hard to get behind. Now, when they're all done up, if you find one that's all done up and for sale and it's a good owner and it's healthy, sure, go for it. You're going to replace a head gasket eventually, but go for it. But telling somebody to buy that as a project car and waste their life savings on that poor car, I don't know. I don't know if I could defend that. Hear me out. Well, I'll try. The Challenger RT, despite the weight, because of the mod ability of the 5.7. I have heard that the 5.7 is actually pretty reliable when you throw boost at it. So that makes sense. I do hear that. I do hear that you can make like 700 horsepower out of them and stuff like that. I don't know how accurate that is and for how long and what else you need, but get my important phone call. All right, I don't want to spoil anything, but that was a just about 45-minute long phone call. This car might be getting some crazy ass shit. The Whipple might be gone. We'll have to see. Anyways, back to what we were talking about. More underrated cars. We'll do a few more. I don't know how many I already filmed because I just got on that really important phone call. So let's go ahead and take a look at some more. Some doofus said 15 to 17 GT, good platform for the price. I don't think anybody is arguing that a Mustang is overrated or underrated. I think it's a Mustang. We already know that. Mazda Speed 3, slept on car, not many around. It's very fun. That's, again, same thing I've heard. I think the Mazda Speed 3 is one of those cars that even I wasn't too familiar about when I started this channel, and then I learned about it, and I was like, oh, that does sound like a pretty fun platform. So, if you're looking for a fun hatchback, I believe they're also all-wheel drive. I might be wrong on that one. Don't quote me. But the Mazda Speed 3 is a very, very fun platform, and I haven't heard many negative things about them at all. They might not be the beautiful, best-looking hatch out there, but yeah. R33, I guess, it's the ugly brother of the R32 and the R35. It's just my fan favorite. Fair. The R33, I will say, I don't like. Like, I just think it is uglier. I like the R32, and I like the R34. The R33 is just a little too 90s. It's a little too round. I understand what they were going for, but I'm just not a huge fan of it. I don't know if I would say it's an underrated car. I just think it's the least desirable for some people. I don't think anybody is sitting here saying that that car's ass. It's just like when you have the option of the R32 or the R34, especially now in the States when the R34 is legal, it's like, why go for the R33? It's like, it's kind of like the weird middle child. No one likes middle child. I'm a middle child. I know that. Let's take a look. GT350s are shown losing in drag races against equally priced cars, but it's a track king. That's pretty valid. A lot of people don't understand that the GT350 isn't designed to go fast in a straight line. That car is designed to go through corners at the same speeds that it can on straights. Like, that car is designed, since it has the IRS rear end, it is designed to fucking grip in the corners like a Corvette or like a Porsche. It is a crazy, well-handled, well-balanced vehicle. And yes, they are slow in straight lines. A Hellcat's going to beat a GT350. Nobody with a brain would expect a GT350 to beat a Hellcat. Stock for stock, I don't think the GT350 is winning. Hellcat makes 700 horsepower. GT350 makes like 520. It doesn't weigh that much lighter than a Hellcat. Hellcat is a supercharged 6.0 or 6.2. Forgot what it is. And the Hellcat, or my bad, the GT350 is a 5.2. So if people are seriously thinking that GT350s are straight line kings, it's not a Mustang. It's not a 5.0. I mean, it is a Mustang, but it's not a 5.0. It's not something where you just throw a Whipple on it and make 900. Even when they're Whippled and stuff, they only make like 700 horsepower. They're not very boost-friendly cars. So, S197 GT500. A lot of people don't know about them. 5.4, 5.8, V8, 6-speed manual, 200 plus miles an hour. That's fair. My favorite generation is the 2013, 2014, as I've said 1,000 times on this channel. But even the earlier generations of the GT500, they're like, you could buy a Shelby GT500 for about the same price you could buy a new Mustang nowadays, which is kind of crazy. Like, you look back and you can have a 500 plus horsepower, 5.4, 5.8, whatever you want, and it's a Shelby. Or you can go out and buy a stock Mustang that is as basic as any other bitch out there. So I do think that people should go out of their way and buy these older cars rather than just a new stock one. Now, the new one is going to be able to have probably more future modability, but I do think the older Shelbys are going to hold their value a lot better than like the newer Mustangs. If you're just looking at it from what is going to be a better financial decision, an older Shelby is going to hold its value a lot better. Might be harder to sell in the future, especially if it's an older S197 Shelby, but I do think there's that market for it, and I do think it's going to hold its value. You're going to see the new S650s eventually be $20,000 cars, and I don't know if we're going to see Shelby GT500s being $20,000 cars. We might, but I don't know. Usually the Shelby name is pretty respected. Mark V Supra, I might be biased. Is that an underrated car? I don't think the Mark V Supra is underrated. I think a lot of people drive them. I see them at drag strips. I see them at drift events. I see them in the canyons. I see them at the track. I don't think the Mark V Supra is underrated at all. NB Miata, cheaper, same size as an NA, better motor, and no NA cringe. That might be the most valid take of them all. I think the NB Miata is the most underrated Miata. The NC is close behind it. But the NB definitely is like, if you want a Miata, don't buy the NA. The NA, unless you're a girl and you're a TikToker, don't buy the NA Miata. That is the goofiest car you could buy. If you're a grown-ass man driving an NA Miata, goofy. But an NB, valid, very valid. And everything he said is correct. So I would say NB's pretty good. Someone did say Ford Focus SVT. See, someone knows. Someone knows. Drop the new merch. That's coming out very soon. Sorry. With the whole move and everything got put on hold. It should be dropping this weekend. All right, couple more. Ford Fiesta ST, literally a go-kart. But I think it's like a go-kart that makes like 130 horsepower. So I don't know if I would necessarily say it's underrated. The Dodge Neon SRT4, I would say, is fairly underrated. Those things used to be just monsters, man. Like, those things, they would give import boys a run for their money every day of the week, and nowadays they're all crackhead cars. So, yeah, they're pretty underrated. All right, couple more. Infiniti G35, no reason to explain. That car is, that's a hard one. The Infiniti G35, if you just remove it from the people that buy it and the scene around it, takeover scene, Edgar's, a bunch of just clapped out kids. The Infiniti G35 is actually a pretty decent car. I hate to say it, but it is a decent car. You got a luxury sports car for really cheap, rear-wheel drive, pretty reliable. It sounds like ass, and it doesn't look half bad when modded correctly, but it is definitely one of those cars that just the culture around it, like the Hellcat, just kind of ruined it. When you think Hellcat, when you think Infiniti, you kind of think of like the same, like just, you know, the crowd ruins the car to a certain extent. So, yeah, I don't think it's underrated, but it might be a little overhated. People might hate the car because of the people driving it. I don't think that's fair. IS300, and just because you hate them. I don't hate the IS300. I don't know why. Have I ever even said I hate the IS300? It's a four-door Supra. I don't necessarily hate them. I know a few buddies with some pretty quick ones. It's not a bad car. I'm not a huge fan of them. I don't really like how they look. I hate the people that drive IS300s that drive around a stock one and they're like, oh, it has the same motor as a Supra. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have the same motor as a Supra. Stop saying that. You're in a stock IS300. It does not have the same motor as a Supra. Who are you fucking around with? So, all right. I just farted. Last one. SC300s because they're cheap, reliable, and can look good modified. You were good on 2 of those points, but no, they cannot really look good modified. Most IS300s look like shit. Even when you look up modified SC300s, they still kind of look like shit. So, no, they are cheap and they are reliable, but they do not look good. But yeah, the SC300, I mean, it's ultimately a Supra, just the Lexus version. It's a little longer. One would argue that that makes it a little bit better for more sportier activities. You could drift it. It has a longer wheelbase. It's better in a straight line because it has a longer wheelbase. But it is heavier. It is uglier, and it's not a Supra. So, but you can throw everything Supra into the car. Everything, I believe. I think all the suspension is pretty much the same. And the engine, you could throw in a Supra engine, a 2J, very easily. So, not a bad take. Not a bad take at all. Anyways, that is all I have for you guys for today. Sorry, this video was a little confusing. Got a very important phone call, like I said. So I'm not going to spoil it too soon, but if this is all correct and it's going to happen, then we're going to have something here that makes crazy horsepower, and it's going to be super fun. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know down below. Subscribe, and until next video, peace.